Hi, I'm Bobby Holcomb. I am with Knoxville Youth Athletics, representing today. But we also represent a broad base of, Web School of Knoxville, Knoxville Endurance, also. And this is part of our summer series where we do weekly meetings, and we interview influential people in the community, in the Knoxville community area. So today I have on here Andrew Pack. It may show up on your screen as Andy. I have known Andrew since he has, I would say roughly about 11, 12 years old. And now he's the co-owner of Runner's Market, which is probably roughly almost 15 to 20 years later. And he's growing up really fast. So it's good to see him in the adult world, making it happen, and still being an impact in our running community, because he has been a part of this industry for almost 15 years. Not only here in Knoxville, but when he was off at college, he actually worked at Fast Break. Is that correct?
Yeah, Fast Break Athletics in Chattanooga.
Okay. And he also worked, you also lived out in Colorado, but I don't recall if you worked out at a running shop out there.
Yeah, there's a local chain out there called Runner's Roost. So I've dipped my toes into a number of different running environments, which has been really, really good for being back here in Knoxville and understanding how things work here.
So your knowledge in the sport is remarkable. So you've got a lot of background, and today this is our topic that we want to kind of talk about. And we're on the front end right now on both the adults and the youth. I'll start with the adults. They're training for like marathons, and they're starting to gear off their base phase for their fall race season. So we'll be talking about trainers a little bit, and we're going to dive in on what your all's process on how to fit people properly for trainers. And then on the youth side, we are on the front end of cross country, where we are going to be talking about, making that transition, how you get, fit it for the proper shoe like the adults, but you're also going to be talking about spikes, cross country spikes and stuff. So that's going to be something big that we're really going to kind of dive into, because a lot of people, this will be their first year running, both the adults and the youth. And so we want to kind of touch up a little bit today on what's the importance of actually going in person to Runner's Market, and actually getting properly fitted for a shoe instead of going online and just picking out a shoe. Before we dive into some questions and let you kind of explain, Runner's Market is located at 4443 Kingston Pike in Knoxville. Their phone number is 865-588-1650 in case you ever want to call them and set up maybe an appointment to get fitted. I know some running shops do that. Do you guys do that from occasion, I'm assuming still?
We don't. We've got enough staff. You guys just come in on your own time, anytime during regular business hours, and we can assist you.
Excellent. And so very friendly, locally owned. Everybody lives in Knoxville. So support local if you ever can. And if you're ever in town, if you do see this video and you ever come to Knoxville, Runner's Market's been around since 1995. So a lot of history. When you walk around that store, you'll see a lot of great stuff from the past, and a lot of good stuff that's in the current and the future for running. So Andrew, thank you for joining us today. So I'm going to talk about a little bit. I'm going to kind of throw out I'm gonna act like a new runner for just a minute. Okay. I'm just totally wide-eyed about the sport. And I come into your store and all of a sudden I look at a shoe and it just looks rocking cool. Those colors are awesome. And what's the first thing you're going to basically tell me if you got to know my background, that I'm brand new and I just like the coolness of that shoe?
Well, when you walk in the store, probably the first thing you're going to say is, I'm not a runner, and we want to make you feel comfortable walking into our store and introducing you to this sport that you're probably unfamiliar with. We definitely want to talk about footwear. Usually that's what you're coming in for. I'll make a little analogy here. You're not going to hit a golf ball with a baseball bat. They look similar. You could do it, but it's just not the right tool for the job. And so first and foremost, the most important thing when it comes to running is proper footwear. This will keep you comfortable. This will keep you prevent injury. And it's just the sole most important thing when it comes to running. I don't care if you run your first mile in jean shorts. The repercussions are not as bad as running it in a pair of Converse. So that's where we're going to get down and dirty, is talking about footwear.
So I come in and what's your process? Like if I come up to you right now, Andrew, and I'm like, okay, You've lured me away from basically that cool shoe that I think is neat that I should just go ahead and wear. And I read online that a couple people loved it. What would you end up telling me different? Hey, what would be the next steps after that?
Well, if you're curious about the shoes, I'll try and make you feel comfortable with our selection. So we only carry the top quality running shoes from running specific brands.
Mhm.
So much like if you were going to go to the doctor's office, the doctor wants to get a little bit of background information. What experience do you have in running? What injuries or aches and pains do you deal with or are experiencing as you're starting this process? We're really taking all that into account because our knowledge of the footwear can really aid in preventing those aches and pains and injuries. Um, and then we get down to the gait analysis. Some of us have heard that term. It's not rocket science. Basically, we're watching you walk. We're looking at the flexibility of your foot, the angle of your tibia, your knees, hips, those kinds of things. We're getting an idea of what you might be
Right.
susceptible to as a runner.
Mhm.
Um, and can I go ahead and show you some footwear?
Yes, that would be incredible. Love to
All
see.
right. So based on your, if you're susceptible to injury, if you've never run a mile, what they call a couch to 5K is a real common thing.
Yeah.
Or if you're a tried and true, say, collegiate cross country runner who's just really dealing with injuries, we're going to go about this process the same. So they make a range of footwear, and I'm going to start with this is a Saucony, right? And this is a very basic shoe.
Mhm.
You've never had an injury. You run 4 miles a day, 3 days a week. You want to keep running, but you want good footwear. And I might put you in something like this. It's very basic.
Yeah.
You can see how flexible it is. There's no plastic or anything. It's just a piece of foam to help absorb some impact and give you some energy return.
How long does
Um,
a shoe last? Usually a trainer, because I'm assuming that's a trainer, correct?
yes, that's a trainer.
So that's a basic trainer, not a race and flat or anything. So a basic trainer, what's the average mileage? I get that question a lot with my kids and their parents. What's the average?
I'm gonna go ahead and give you a really broad answer. I'm gonna say 250 to 350 miles.
Okay.
It depends on how much you scoot when you run.
Yeah.
It depends on your weight. It depends on if you're wearing that shoe for any other purposes.
Right.
We usually tell people to keep in mind of their mileage
Mhm.
and let their body be the best indicator.
Right. Okay.
Um, so I showed you this guy.
Yep.
Let's move on to one of those cool looking shoes you were talking about. What you may not be able to notice from this image here is that this shoe is almost twice as thick in the
Yeah.
midsole. Okay, it's still that basic shoe. There's no plastic in it. It's not trying to control the motion of your foot,
Right.
but it is much thicker. So, Bobby, you come into the store, your knees hurt, you don't want a super stiff shoe. I might just give you a little bit more cushioning, right? And then maybe that helps. It's really an experiment in trying on different footwear.
Okay.
And then let's say you're running, your knees hurt, everything's uncomfortable. I watch you walk and I see a lot of flexibility in your foot.
Right.
So every time you hit that ground with 3 to 5 times your body weight, your feet are rotating. It's drawing your knees, your hips all laterally, which we don't want. So we might try something like this. Doesn't
Okay.
look a whole lot different other than the color, but this shoe is going to have a stiffer heel. You're going to see a denser material here called a guide rail that wraps around the shoe.
Okay.
And this is just an example of what's called a stability shoe.
Okay.
Bobby, I know you're familiar with that. So what this shoe is going to do is from heel to toe, it's going to help guide the motion of the foot and
Right.
stabilize the leg, helping to prevent injury.
Okay.
So those are your basic main types. I carry 6 or 7 brands. Every brand has 2 to 3 what we call neutral cushioning shoes, right? And 2 to 3 what we call stability shoes.
Okay.
And ultimately, our job is to guide you in the right direction based on your feedback. So as an adult or as a student athlete, when you come in, we want to get your feedback on the footwear you're trying so that we can continue to guide you in the right direction. And
Okay.
ultimately, you're going to get the shoe that's the most comfortable on your foot.
All right.
So one thing I hear a lot is, I don't really know what I'm looking for. They all kind of feel the same. And I say, just close your eyes. Which one feels like you don't have a shoe on? That's probably your best bet.
Right. So we talked about trainers. And so basically when an athlete comes in, they're going to get fitted for the proper trainer. And like we basically did, we went over just a second ago, but 250 to 350 miles range.
Yep.
Now, let's go into another category in trainers. Let's go into racing flats. Do you happen to have any of those? Do you guys still kind of support the racing flat, the lighter shoe? And when is the purpose for those?
Well, I didn't bring a racing flat with me today. It's Bobby, you're probably aware how that industry has changed to much larger, thicker soles.
Mhm.
Racing flats are for race day. You may do a little bit of track training in them, maybe a speed workout or two.
Yep.
But what you're looking at with the racing flat is typically a thinner soled, much lighter shoe. You can be speedy in it. It's going to be similar to a cross-country spike with a few differences that we can talk about once we get into the cross-country aspect of it.
Okay. Let's talk about spikes.
Yeah.
We have an audience here that's basically a bunch of youth athletes. And so let's start off right off the bat, the difference in a cross-country spike and a trainer. I like talking about the weight right off the bat. So what's the difference in the weight?
Oh yeah, the difference in weight is going to be by about 50%,
Wow.
roughly. The shoe is going to look a little bit cooler, let's say. You're going to have some tread to it. It's going to be thinner, which is what I call like a performance fit. Usually tends to be real fit and snug. There's not going to be any, structure to the shoe because this is race day shoe. This is your lightest. It's totally functional. It's not that comfortable. It's not supposed to be, but you lace it on and it's going to make you go fast. And the biggest difference between a trainer and a cross-country spike is that it comes with a spike.
Oh yeah.
It actually comes with about 8 to 12 of them that you are going to screw into the bottom of the shoe.
Okay.
So that if a runner's getting a little too close to you in the back, you can kick your leg back, keep them away from you.
Okay.
No, just kidding. That's for traction because you're going to be running on all sorts of surfaces, mud, grass, dirt, hills. And all of our cross-country spikes do come with the spike. They come with a little spike wrench to screw it in.
Okay.
But there's your cross-country spike. This is just an example. Saucony, we tend to carry Saucony and Brooks, but not as much of a fitting process with spikes.
Right.
Once again, they're not comfortable. They're purely functional. You're not going to be training in it. You might get out there and kind of test it out a little bit, see what the spike is like. But yeah, that's it. That's going to be your race day footwear. That's what's going to get you that PR. That's what's going to take you to state, that kind of thing. You don't have that, you're going to be disadvantaged for sure.
Nice. So do you have all your spikes in stock at the current moment?
Not yet. It's maybe it doesn't need explaining, but things are running a little bit more slowly. So things are coming in. Bobby, I will be sure to reach out to you directly when we have a full load of spikes so that you can let people know.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds great. The next category I kind of want to dive into is, everybody talks about when they're new runners, they have very, very soft skin on their feet. And then soon you got to start kind of, toughen that skin up a little bit, but you still got to protect it. So two categories that I'd like to talk about today is the skin, when we rub and everything, but we'll dive into body glides and, chafing type, anti-chafing type stuff in a minute. But let's talk about socks, layers there, because that's I've been in your store before once or twice, I think, and times a million. And so I've noticed there's a big sock selection there at the store. Talk about socks.
Yeah, Bobby, we have a sock wall. I mean, it's huge, and we have tons of socks, a bunch of different brands. I know it can be a lot to look at, but once again, we're here to help to guide you into the right sock. So let's use another analogy. Why is a sock important? It's the same reason oil is important for an engine. That friction is going to exist if you do not have some kind of factor or lubricant between the pieces of metal. So when you put on a technical running sock, you're putting on a product that is designed specifically to grab a hold, stick to the skin, prevent friction between the skin and the sock, and allow moisture to escape.
Okay.
And here's just an example. This is one from a brand called Belega, probably our best selling.
Okay.
right? Looks fancy, you know, and it is. This is about a $17, $18 sock, and that might blow you away. Uh, but don't go marathon training in your Walmart sock, and you're going to suffer the consequences. Usually, you're going to have a pocketed heel, right? So
Okay.
it pockets onto that heel. You're going to have tabs up here to prevent friction with the backs and the front of the shoe.
Okay.
You're going to have some compression through specific zones of the foot.
Right.
You're going to have a seamless toe,
Okay.
right? And all in all, you're going to put this sock on and you're going to put your shoe on and you're not even going to feel any movement on your foot. You're not going to get blistering, anything like that.
Right.
So that is a technical running sock. I mentioned earlier, I don't care if you go out and run your first mile in jean shorts, get good footwear and get a good pair of socks. Those are the two most important things.
Well, speaking of jean shorts, if you're going to go do that, then talk about chafing. And Body Glide seems to be a miracle in our sport, or that's one of the brands. I know there's other. I've been out of the running shop industry for almost I think 10 years now almost, and so I'm sure there's other brands out there now that are anti-chafing. People sweat throughout the entire summer and they get chafing on their arms and nipples and feet.
Chafing unfortunately seems to be attracted to the most uncomfortable areas of the body.
Yeah.
And yeah, Bobby, you're absolutely right. Body Glide is still the forefront.
Oh, wow.
It looks like a little deodorant stick. Basically you're going to generously apply it to any areas where you experience chafing. If you've never experienced chafing, try to avoid it at all possible. It will debilitate you in a race. It will debilitate you in your running. It can be very uncomfortable.
And it gets uncomfortable when you go and start taking a shower and that water just comes on it for the first time, mixed with all that salt.
I know. You want to leave all the blood, sweat, and tears out on the course, on the run. And when you get home, you want to have left it. You don't want a constant reminder of the grueling experience you've been through out on the field.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, great, Andrew. I appreciate it. So you've given us a good overview of everything about, runner's market. When people are going to get fitted here in the next couple of weeks, this is a great time to get fitted because especially in the front end of your training cycles, you're going to be running in those shoes, for the next 350 miles. And so once you do, you don't want to be changing out of shoes, all the time either. It's very important to stay in that same trainer. That way your body is used to the dimensions from the heel to toe. And it's also used to the foaming system and all that. So that's very, very critical when getting running shoes. And so you want to get fitted on the front end of your training cycles, both in the youth ranks and also in the adults. So the adults out there that are seeing this today, if you've not been fitted for new shoes or you need new shoes, head on down to Runner's Market. You guys actually do a discount, correct?
Yeah, if you were buying a pair of shoes for your cross country runner, we do a 10% discount on a shoe, and that can equate anywhere from about that can be about $10 to $16 depending on the shoe.
Okay.
And if you do a little bit of math, you'll know that means that our shoes range from about $100 to $160. And if that's a bit of a shock to you for first-time parents and first-time students in this sport, listen, if you're enjoying running, if your kid's enjoying running, I guarantee you it's not the most expensive sport out there. Make that initial investment. You only have to do it 1 or 2 times a year. Because if your kid's is hurting and they're not enjoying themselves, they might go play soccer. And now you got to get shin guards and you got to get cleats and you got to get socks and you got to get the jersey and you got to get the ball. So running is a really financially easy sport to get involved with. You just got to make that initial investment, and we make it easy by giving you that discount.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We appreciate you for our community because that's certainly appreciated, especially in these interesting times that are starting to occur. That extra 10% can help. And it also, if you go in with that sticker shock and you look at it and they give you that 10%, now you can turn right around and go get you a pair of socks and get the pair of socks and then the shoes.
Yep.
One other thing, we talk about technology. I'm not sure if you have a Garmin or a watch with you, but One of the things that's great and invest in when you're at a running shop to look into, I know you guys carry Garmin's watches, but talk about it briefly, how great it is to have one of those when it comes to the technology of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, having a Garmin, it's a data tracker. I mean, if you start using it on your first run of the season, and you use it for every single run, you're going to have a wide open data field of your mileage, how you've improved, your PRs, even maps of your courses.
Hmm.
Um, the elevation of a certain run that you did. This is all very useful information for someone who wants to improve.
Right.
And the Garmin watches are going to be much more accurate than, say, if you're just going to hold your iPhone, and run like this.
Yeah.
They are. I carry a series that is specifically their running series, and they can be a little expensive. It is a piece of technology, um, but if you or your son and daughter, if you've got $1,000 iPhone, I guarantee you $200 is pennies in the investment of something like this. And it's really cool to have. You can have an app on your phone and you can see all your data. It's just a really, really neat tool.
I want to add too, as a coach, that for you adults and youth, if you do have a coach that analyzes data and does help your process of training, it is great to have that watch, because your coach is not going to be running by your side on a daily basis. But what that does give us, it gives us the data points that we need for paces, elevation, weather, all kinds of great cadence, heart rate. It gives us all kinds of data on our end to help us adjust your training schedule. So not only is it just a kind of a feature for just our self geek ways when we're out there running and just staring at our pace, it's also added value to everything around you, surrounding you, that people that support you. It's also a great point for running logs. You can upload to a running log of, say, Garmin Connect or Strava or Final Surge or Training Peaks and so on. You got all of these platforms that you can actually upload to, and 25, 30 years down the road, you can go back and look at these logs and be like, oh, wow, this is what I actually did back in the heyday. Or, you can have good, interesting, open dialogue discussions with your current coach at the end and talk about your training and what they're trying to look for and what you're trying to accomplish within. And so that's, for me, for a youth or an adult, I enjoy that if you do have those had that technology, so that way we can analyze your data as we go through your training cycle. So it's beneficial only for yourself, but it's also beneficial for if you're being guided through the sport as you grow. And you youth athletes, I think you'll really appreciate this as the season goes on, because it gives us points to kind of talk out certain situations. So I appreciate that, Andrew, on the talking about the Garmins. We'll go ahead and start closing out, and we appreciate you taking the time today, and hanging out with us, hanging out with the KYA KE web, and then we're going to put this on the YouTube channel. So hopefully we'll get millions and millions of views, and you'll get people calling and texting and emailing and coming in the store from all over the country. But the greatest thing is as a fan of the sport, we thank you for what you guys have done since 1995 for our running community. It's been a very huge value to the growth of our community, and we really appreciate y'all's knowledge that you guys give back to our new runners, current runners, and I'm sure the old timers even come in and want to tell a story or two when they pick up a pair of socks or maybe even just a Cliff Bar, and they may not even run anymore. But you guys have been around long enough to where you probably see some turnover now of people that used to be great runners and or used to be just involved in the sport, and now they can come back and tell stories and share stories of the past. And you guys having that knowledge, we appreciate what you guys do for our community. So thank you very much.
Yeah, Bobby, thanks for inviting me out with this community. When I was fitting people for shoes as a high schooler, those kids are now coming into our store with their kids, and I am now fitting their kids.
Isn't that great?
If you haven't been to Runner's Market, we're a cultural fixture of running in Knoxville. We've got a lot of history, really just a fun place to gather and to be a part of the running community. We're right next to the Third Creek Greenway. We're right next to the Sequoia Hills Boulevard Trail. We've got water fountain. We've got a changing room. We've got a restroom. Come in. Don't be afraid. I don't care if you're just going for a walk or you're going to do an intense track workout, we're a very comfortable place to be and to just try and be a part of that community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And we appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing you guys at races and seeing you at your shop here soon. And you take care, Andrew.
All right. And one last thing for those kids,
Sure.
don't forget, we got tons of stickers. We got Tennessee Run stickers. We got CC stickers. Come load
There
up your water bottle,
Oh, there you
show
go.
everybody
Yeah,
what you do.
That is true. That is true.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
cars. I start seeing around those on those cars too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. Thanks for having me, Bobby. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.